Hey everybody, this is Uncle Zed. I want to wish all of you a happy new year. Hope you all had a great holiday, as this is my first recording for 2018. A lot of things happened over the holiday, as you guys I'm sure are aware of, as far as things happening in the world. Destruction, freezing back east, floods. So it looked like we were starting the new year kind of in a negative. And sure enough, about 3 days in, unfortunately, the government started getting involved with Trump and all the bullshit that he's starting to come up with. So I thought today a good topic to start the new year would be the differences between somebody like me, who's a late baby boomer, and the millennials that are out there that are going to rule the world, in reference to what's going on with the world. Breaking it all down and having looked at it and studied it for a bit, I've come to realize that baby boomers are under a category that go from the 40s until like the mid 60s. So it's a huge range, 20 plus years. So I fall under the category of late boomer, as I was born towards the latter part of that age gap. And let's say my dad was an early boomer, which would put him in the same classification, maybe about 10 years older than Trump, which I still think is under the early boomer category. Then after that, we had the XYZs as far as generations, and now millennials. From what I understand, because I'm a late boomer towards the mid part of the 60s, a millennial would then be my kid. So I would have a millennial had I had children. And the thought process between us is not that far off, believe it or not, in as far as what we believe in. So going back in history, we know that the Industrial Revolution, as far as the United States is concerned, happened in the 1820s and 40s, between 1820 and 1840. Some say it started around 1760, but in reality, 1820 to 1840s is when we really started cranking and building things, and the Industrial Revolution took place. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because I'm trying to tie all of these things in to the new revolution that's happening today, which is the new digital revolution, the millennial revolution that I'm sure is going to be coming up pretty soon. And there are reasons why I say that. So thinking about a millennial being my kid, what would be the things that would be common between us as far as thought process? You know, if I had a kid in their 20s, early 20s, that would be going to college or just about ready to be coming out of college. Believe it or not, a lot of things are the same. The older I get, the more conservative I get. And the bigger the government I want helping me, probably more towards the Democratic side of the house than the Republican. You would want services to help you as you get older, Medicare, Medi-Cal, Social Security, because you worked your whole life paying into it. And as you get older, that's kind of the benefit you get. And having the government kind of give you a helping hand. I don't mean 100%. I just mean a little bit of a helping hand, so that as you get older, you're not producing as much money, you got some money saved, and maybe the government can kick in and help you with some programs, maybe even help an older person learn a new technology so that they can open up their eyes and kind of get with it. We'll talk about that in a little bit and where I think the problem lies. So this would be one thing that I think both of us would agree on, because I believe millennials also believe that a bigger government offers more services. At least from polls that I've seen, upwards of 53 to 55% of millennials polled believe that more services for government would be a good thing. And in essence, you would say that the government would grow, or you'd have more government because of that. But aren't they working for us? Don't we pay taxes so that they work for us? I believe that's the way it works. So yeah, a little bit bigger government would be okay in this respect, because it would be helping its own people. Primarily Americans, even the immigrants, because we're all immigrants. Just go back and listen to one of my other podcasts about immigration. You'll figure that one out. We both, for sure, agree on Social Security. I seriously doubt that there's going to be anything left by the time I get ready to try to draw on Social Security. And I'm a late boomer. So we're talking about double nickels as far as age. So if I had a kid that was in their 20s, what do you think they think about Social Security? Or what do millennials think about Social Security? Same thing I do. It ain't going to be there. Because they're spending the money on stupid shit. Like bombing countries that we don't belong in. Like going golfing and spending over $100 and something million over 109 days of our new president's presidency of 365 days were spent golfing. That cost us about $2 million a pop. He goes every weekend. That's where our money's going. Another thing I think we'd agree on, other than the fact that the government's spending our money needlessly, thus not allowing help to come our way, is that we're both more progressive on social issues. We both agree that people should get married to whoever they want to. We both, the millennials and the late boomers, for the most part, at least I believe that you have the freedom to go out and smoke weed if you want. Treat it like alcohol. Don't be stupid. I understand and I know what the Bitcoin's about. So all of these things would be the same. We would have good conversations. We'd have arguments about it. But we'd have good conversations as I do when I speak to a millennial now. I can get along with them. I get along with them better than I do a late boomer. Sorry, early boomers. People that were born in the 40s. Late 30s and 40s, because they have a lot of history that they can tell me. They lived through a lot. But as far as, us agreeing on a couple of things that are new, that are cryptocurrency based, those things just don't sink in. We'll get to that in a bit. We're just going for the things that are the same because I'm trying to make a point. We both agree that millennials are going to be less affluent, unfortunately. And I say that only because you guys, the millennials, are coming into this world with a huge debt on your back if you went to college. Way bigger than I had when I went to college. So you're already starting your life on a negative. And you're being less affluent because you're owing so much money at such a high rate that some people in my generation have yet to pay back their student loans. So, that's a given. You guys are coming in at a negative. Not good. The one thing that I think is different between us, and this is something that I've noticed, is that you guys are more reluctant to get married, to make that commitment, versus my generation that I think were more committed to it. Not necessarily a bad thing, because I'm sure your guys' divorce rate are going to be a lot lower than my generation. But that part of the commitment, you guys are a little bit different in thought than my generation was. Which is kind of weird, because the population of the earth is, in some countries, are on a negative. Not necessarily America, we're on a positive with 360 plus million people. But in other countries, I think that's their thought. There are more millennials, and the trend is being seen, as such as Japan, where it's on a negative. And that's where the robots episode comes in, because it kind of explains to you how that is taking place of humans, because they have to make up the gap. So another thing we agree on, and this is something that I wanted to do when I first got married 30 plus years ago, is we all want to buy a home. And then I think millennials are in the same space as far as thought. We all want a house. We all want to call it home. We don't want to rent. We don't want to give somebody else our money. So we think the same. The thing that's really weird, and this is true in Italy for a fact, is that more millennials are living at home longer Whereas in my generation, we wanted to get the hell out as soon as possible. So, in a broad sense, what I just described are the likenesses between myself as a late baby boomer born in the 60s versus the millennial that I would have as a child, or the millennials that are out there now that I talk to every day, that I run across at stores, that I joke around with, because I'm open-minded and I understand what you guys are doing, trying to do, and I'm with you 100%. We may have a few differences of opinion, but overall, I think we're in the same space as far as thought. We're in that box where we know certain things need to be done, what's right and what's wrong, how the world should move forward, and how fucked up the world's been as of late. And that's what brings me to the core of my podcast today. And that's the differences between the mass of people of generation late boomer, like myself, XYZ in between. Some of them are lost, some of them are doing their own thing. And then coming up right behind it, which is you guys, are the millennials. Versus the early baby boomers, the people in their 70s and up. Primarily, as you've noted, if you watch the news, read a newspaper, or open up your Google and look at your news, our government is primarily being run by those people. Those people, I mean the early baby boomers, the ones that were born in the late 30s, early 40s. Trump's like 71, 72. Sessions is somewhere around that. On and on and on. What are these people doing to the marble that we live in globally that they just don't understand in as far as destruction? It is so evident that we started out 2018 with hope that perhaps things would mellow out a little bit. Things would get a little bit better. Fresh new year. And if you look me up on Facebook or on Twitter, Uncle Zed, or at the Uncle Zed, either or, you'll note that I have a lot of entries in there telling you that a mere 3 days in, we're talking about whose button is bigger than whose, and destruction of the world, and reduction of rights to DACA, reduction of monies going to CHIPS programs for kids. Everything that was built up in the last 2 years in hopes for helping people rather than putting them down or segregating them are slowly being chipped away. So this is the core of what I'm trying to get to. Why are we allowing that generation in which does not understand what's going on, that probably does not understand what a computer really does, other than some moron beating keys into Twitter, throwing out crap that makes no sense whatsoever, making up lies, trying to suck people into his lies, having people report on his lies and then calling it fake news. The hypocrisy of signing a Martin Luther King document, doing something, trying to do something to try to appease the black people after he called the places in which black people come from shitholes. Well, if those places are shitholes, I guess we're in a shithole too, because we get people from shitholes all over the place. So what? We must be the biggest shithole out there. Those are called immigrants. Kicking Haitians out. What the hell is that? Yeah, there was a program. Yeah, it was meant to be for a certain amount of time. But is it the right time? This is what I'm trying to get at. Is it just blank, check, write it and go, everybody out? Has anybody even bothered to check and see if the conditions in which we allow people to come in and then demand that they go back meet the criteria. In other words, is their country ready to receive them back after the earthquake, after the destruction, whatever happened, that we allowed these people to come in and live in the United States until their country was rebuilt and the idea is for them to go back. Well, I hate to tell you that if you come from a shithole and you're in the land of opportunity, being America, why would you want to go back to a shithole? Now he's wanting to kick them out. So he's talking out both sides of his mouth, calling the place that they're supposed to go back to shitholes, which doesn't meet the criteria for allowing them to go back by law, but yet he's forcing them to go back by saying, out you go. So those ideas are archaic. Try to explain to a person in their late 70s, early 80s, what a Bitcoin is, what a cryptocurrency is, something they can't touch. I guarantee you'll get into an argument because it just closes off their brain. So in thinking that and knowing that the world's global with computers and all the gadgets we have and the way that we communicate through Facebook, through Instagram, through all the media that I'm out there trying to spread my word to somebody that'll listen, and maybe it'll help one person, which will make it worth it. They're closed off to all that. So it's like they're not able to understand our language. And I say ours because I've been in IT for a long time, so I've learned this from the ground up. And I've kind of kept up with it, and I've seen it blossom into what it is. The dependency that people have on it. Older folks just don't get it. They don't even know what text is. They don't understand that, it's a real quick way to discuss something with somebody without having to talk to them on the phone for 35 fucking minutes. Quick message, out it goes, done. So I'm trying to catch up to the millennials in as far as how quick things are happening. I remember when things started speeding up and I was able to keep up with it. Now, I'm not even sure the millennials can keep up with it. And they were born with it in their hand as far as technology. Whereas people born in the late boomer cycle had to kind of learn it as it came to them. You guys, the millennials, have it like secondhand, man. Pick up a phone. I learned stuff from you guys now. Whereas before I was teaching people. So it's progressed to a point where it's really hard to keep up. And the older folks that are running everything, the older folks with the money, are the ones not understanding any of this. And they're kind of excluding the millennials or younger people from power, from being able to make money to have power, because it seems like you have to have money to have power in this country. So it's kind of blocking, or we're kind of at a cock block, if you will. We're trying to move forward, understanding that the world needs help, that we know that the earth is getting hotter, that there's definitely something going on that we got to look into before it's too late, because we want our children and grandchildren to be able to enjoy the marble like we did. But unfortunately, the people that are in power are the same people that started fucking this place up from the get-go. And it's just a continuing cycle now. And they just don't get that the brakes need to be put on, and you need to kind of look around a little bit and not just keep pumping shit out like they're doing and keep destroying everything around us. So, as of late, we're out of the Paris Accord, which was something that all countries agreed on that was going to reduce global warming. Well, we're out. Fortunately, people are smart enough that are late boomers, XYZ, and millennials that are starting to take charge of things. They're going to keep going with it. Fuck what the president says. He's a retard. It's evident that this guy knows nothing. Absolutely nothing. Even if this new book that came out is half bullshit, half of it is true. That half is bad enough. A third of it being true is bad enough. some of the things that are being said and some of the things that are coming out is just ridiculous. There's absolutely no control. Zero. This is not a business. This is a country. Even though you have a business background, you cannot run the country like a business. Not wholly and 100%. You have to be able to listen to people around you, primarily people coming up with knowledge of things around them, the millennials, all the way up to their parents, people like me. Maybe we have something to say about this. After all, we're the tax base for all the assholes up top and all the poor motherfuckers down below us. We're sandwiched right between having to give both of you guys support. Why the upper crust, I have no idea. And now they're getting taxed less. So, they're giving people $1,000 for a bonus this year because of the tax break from 37% down to some ridiculous 25%. Wally World did that. They gave all their employees a nice fat bonus and $1 more an hour. But on the ass end of that, they closed half of the Sam's Clubs. All those people are out of work. So that means the dickheads up at the top making all the money are still going to be making money. Those are the young boomers, young age boomers from the 40s, 30s, the old money people running this country. Because guess what? They keep talking about the stock market. 25,000, another 100. 80% of that money is controlled by 2% of the population of this country. Guess who that 2% is? Old money. The Murdochs of this world. The Trumps. The people that claim to be billionaires. I'm talking about progressive people that have their eyes open to what's going on around the world. Again, I'll say this person's name because it's just somebody that I admire for what he was able to do. Mark Cuban. He's kind of like my age. Made himself from nothing to a billionaire, and he still has his money, and he still keeps building on it. There's somebody that's progressive that could probably have a few thoughts of what's going on in the world, how to fix certain things, like the potholes on my street, for God's sakes. Just that simple. Not asking you guys to make a new cure for whatever new disease is coming out. Just simple stuff, you know. Cut the grass on the freeway so I could see who the hell's on the other side of it, of a median. So when I make a left-hand turn, I don't smack into somebody. Things are just getting out of control. So much so that because of a good speech, people now want Oprah to be our next president. Not a thought that's out of the question, because everything she touches turns to gold, and she is a billionaire who made herself from nothing to what she is today. But do we really want another Hollywood person in there? Did we not learn our lesson this time? You cannot compare Ronald Reagan, a person that was kind of like Trump, if you will, as far as, you know, being on TV and movies and being out in the world. Oprah, again, on TV, having her show, probably a kick-ass podcast. Whatever she touches turns to gold. You cannot compare a Reagan to anybody else out there, because anybody else out there that's in entertainment does not have what Reagan had. And what Reagan had was experience, because he didn't just jump into the presidency. Look it up. He's got a library. Go to it. You could see how many accomplished things he did in his life before he became president. How many struggles he went through. So, our thought a year ago, plus when we voted, was that somebody different, somebody not a politician, could maybe make a promise and keep it. Are you guys seeing that? Because I'm not. I'm seeing the complete opposite. As a matter of fact, I'm seeing what we consider a cluster fuck happening. Chasing your ass to find your tail. People getting fired right and left. People in the White House calling the person in charge a moron, a retard. Names that you are very vulgar, that disparage people. But that's the only thing that you can say about a person that consistently hammers things that are completely wrong and then lies about it to your face. So there's two schools of thought. My first school of thought was to go after this guy, and I've been pumping out so much stuff, and it's under Truth Really Undermines My Presidency, which stands for Trump. It's a hashtag. It's out there. And every single thing that I could find that just doesn't make sense, I put under that hashtag. So anybody that wants to look at it, it's grouped together. That's one school of thought. Just bombard this guy directly at the real Donald Trump. And I say some things that in other countries would put me in jail. Surprised I haven't been blocked yet. But it's my right as an American citizen to do that. People have died for this right. And I will exercise it until my last breath. That's one thing. But once you figure out that this guy's an attention whore, that may not be the best plan. Because much like a bully, if you don't react to a bully, the bullying stops. Because the only thing a bully's going after is a reaction. Well, an attention whore is looking for attention. So what if for a week, everybody that's out there had zero reaction to anything he tweeted, said, did, or appeared on TV for? Zero reaction. Zero questions. No issues. Everything's fine. I think this guy'd have a heart attack. Because he's an attention whore, and all he's looking for is everybody doing what I'm doing. And I think I've come to the realization that that may not be the best plan. Sessions with this bullshit, same thing. The good thing about this is that little by little, and because millennials are starting to come up, because people that are their parents like myself are thinking differently, the truth will definitely come out. And we're not going to have to wait 20, 30, 40 years like the Kennedy papers for us to know. We're going to know now. Because the millennial generation is the generation of now. Information across the globe now. So why wouldn't we know, as we do right now, that things are falling apart for this guy? Little by little, it'll come out. And before we know it, we will know about it. And we will be welcoming a new president. I would bet that we won't go 4 years. And the reason being is right back to my main topic, if you will, or what I want to get across, is the fact that we have to really look at the House, at the Senate, all the way down to your local representative. And you guys have a chance coming up in July, and a bigger chance in November this year, of going out and voting. Did not bother to look up and see how many or what percentage of millennials are registered to vote. But if nothing else, you guys have a voice in the power of voting. And if nothing else in this country works, I know that this does. The voice of the people. As it says, for the people, by the people. That's what it's all about. It's for us. People seem to forget that all these guys that are in office are working for us. How much tax do you pay every time you look at your check? Federal, state, every time you purchase something, every time you get a gallon of gas. Every penny counts coming out of your pocket and going into somebody else's when they're performing a service. So for instance, if you had somebody come out and paint your house and they did a job that equal to what you're seeing the government do for us right now, you would fire those people on the spot. And you would make sure all your friends knew about it, because you wouldn't want them to get burnt. And that's how I feel what's happening to us is. That's the perfect word for it. We're being burnt right now with all this bullshit going down. And the sad part about it is that my generation understands climate change, understands the destruction that can happen if some asshole pushes a little red button, as is outlined in one of my posts on my Facebook and Twitter page, showing you what Nagasaki looked like after the bomb went off, which now we have things that are 100 times stronger. We understand that. And the sad part about it is understanding that I come to the conclusion that my kids or their kids may not have the opportunities or chances to see and experience things that I did coming up, because they may be gone. Like parts of Yosemite that burnt down, that had been there for thousands of years that I got to see. Well, my grandchild will never get to see it because it's gone. Montecito, geez, it's a beautiful place in Northern California. Gone. Things that have been around for hundreds of years. Museums. They had car shows at the Pebble Club, golf club. They couldn't even put an amount on the cars that were shown every year. Well, guess who owned all those cars? One ofs that we'll never get to see again because it's only in pictures now. The people that lived in Montecito. Gone. The fires that we had up north in the vineyards that I speak about in my immigration podcast. Not only are all of those vineyards gone, but 28,000 illegal immigrants that work those fields that gives you a $2 bottle of Chuck are out of a job and everything they owned. Probably kicked back to their native country with nothing in their hand. So it gets down to the fact that when I immigrated to this country back in the early 70s, late 60s, this, up until recently, was the number one place to come to. The land of opportunity. Streets paved with gold. Money coming off trees, man. Money trees everywhere. Just the saying to say that this land gave you opportunities. You could dream it. You could do it. You'll make it. And many people did. Perfect example of that is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Coming from a place where he didn't know the language, could barely speak, became a movie star, and eventually was governor of California, for God's sakes. And probably would have been president if we didn't have a stupid law that says you got to be born here in order for you to be president. Otherwise, you can't do it. You can see where everything ties in. Immigration brings us to the place we're at in America. What makes America great? The land of opportunity. People flock here for that. Our economy was strong. Sixth largest economy in the world is California. So within the borders, there's one state who ranks sixth in the world's economy, which tells you we got a lot of stuff going on in this country. It's a great place to be. Everything we need is right here, except for a great president to lead us like the ones before him tried their hardest to do. At the very least, you could say they tried. I don't even see that happening now. It's just a big joke to the whole world. Again, don't care who you voted for. Doesn't matter who I voted for. It's just a matter of what's going on right now and coming to the realization that common sense would tell you that this is not right. It just doesn't feel right. The outcomes of things are not right. The isolation that's happening between us and other countries of the world is not right. And this is where my generation, all the way down to the millennials, I believe, have it in their brain that it should be like. We should be getting together. We should be trying to solve issues. We should be allowing 2, 3, 4 generations down the road to be able to experience what we experience today. A marble that we could live in, that could be self-sustaining, that we don't go destroying with the little red buttons and rhetoric and bullshit that makes people pissed off that might press their little red button, because all it takes is one. What people seem to forget is that what they're talking about will destroy the earth if only one of the two presses their button. That's what we went through during the Cold War. So what are we calling this war now? The sword fighting war? Whose is bigger? This isn't a game. So to show you, or to try to expand on this thought, actually, I should better say, how ridiculous is it that we're isolating ourselves from North Korea? And for the first time in 50 some odd years, the phone at the parallel where they're north and south are staring at each other rang. And for the first time in more than 50 years, the north and the south started talking to each other. And guess what? They're going to continue that like gentlemen, like grown-ups. Not like a big red-headed pussy who's a whiner. Just a little whiny bitch that can't get his shit together and make the big deal like he's so good at doing. Well, look back on that. Bankruptcy is in his middle name. So no, he's not a good businessman. I truly believe somebody fucked up when they voted for him, not looking up how good a businessman is he. Did anybody do research? No, they just blindly went and voted for some asshole. Now North and South Korea are talking to each other. We didn't have anything to do with it other than, well, America's got a clown for a president. We're not going to listen to them. Germany and China got together, and they're moving forward with the Paris Accord, kicking the United States clean out because the United States walked away. You can see where the momentum's going here. And don't believe the hype of the people that are in our generation that are underneath this asshole trying to push the objective. They're just trying to protect their job. They're just trying to eat at the end of the day. So Sarah Huckabee with her fucking floating eye, talking shit all day long to the people that are standing in front of her, lying to them to their face as to what the president meant or said, is just doing it because she wants to eat at the end of the day. Because if you sit down and talk to her, I guarantee you that she would tell you the truth. And the truth is, oh my God, what the hell's going on? So it's come to a crossroads, people. I'm telling you, it's not going to last too much longer. Between the investigation that he's under, between the stupid rhetoric that's being put out there, calling other countries shithole, pulling out of things that we know are right, making us look like idiots, we'll stop. And I truly believe you just let this guy go. Wind him up and let him go, and he will hang himself. Because he's just too narcissistic to realize that he will open his mouth and he will hang himself. And then he'll take credit for it. Like he's taking credit for everything else. So my thought overall on this whole situation is just to get the point out that even though I'm put into the baby boomer category, there's a large disparaging gap there that my parents and I don't see eye to eye. That's how big that generation gap is between my parents and I. A difference of 20 plus years, 20, 25 years, whatever, however old they were when they had me. To this day, there's a humongous gap. That was the last generation where I believe that gap happened. Because I see people in my generation with kids and then their grandkids. They're a lot more open and a lot more receptive to things that are going on. And they understand it the way that millennials, all the way up to my age, double nickels or so, understand the world to be. And I think we need to group together, revamp the whole system by going out and voting for a person that, one, you believe has your beliefs in their heart as to what they want to accomplish. And hopefully, and I'm not trying to exclude anybody here or try to browbeat any age group, but in this day and age, hopefully somebody that's still malleable enough in their brain to understand what's going on and how fast things are moving in communication, in the way that people understand things that come out of computers or Twitters or Facebooks or whatever, that it's not an instrument for you to propagandize your views that are completely askew of normalcy, but somebody that understands how to use it as a tool to help better this earth. Because if we don't do it, you can see it chipping away as we speak. We're running out of fuel. Ice that was frozen for a millennia is starting to thaw. And as the Aztecs had put down, there were going to be 3 disasters. We've already gone through 2. The third disaster that they depict sometime in the future that will destroy the earth is one of fire. And it's falling right into place, people. Because if you bother to look this up in your Google bar, the melting of the permafrost in places like Siberia that have been frozen for as long as man's been walking the earth, those places are now starting to melt. And the idea, therefore, is that if we continue on this path, it's going to melt fast enough that all that methane gas that's trapped underneath there, that's been there for a millennia, because remember, it's been frozen for a millennia, and now being thawed out, all that methane gas is going to escape in one fallow swoosh into our atmosphere. And once that happens, in one tiny spark, lights it on fire, the marble will catch on fire, and we will disappear like the dinosaurs. So use your iPad, your Google, and look up people that are coming up for election. June and in November. And vote your conscience as to what they have to say. Not because you like their name, not because you like what they were wearing when they appeared on TV, or how bitchin' their haircut was, or how much money they got in the bank, for God's sakes, or how good a businessman you think they are, because you got fooled this time. Shame on them. You get fooled the second time, shame on you. The only person that has control of that is you. The single person that walks up to that voting booth and votes and makes a change. If you don't, it just means you like what's going on and you just don't give a shit. Because we want to talk to people that want to make a change for the better, that want to have this marble still floating around for our grandsons to be able to see, and their grandsons, like it's been happening for thousands of years. I mean, think about how long man's been walking the earth, and think about how short a span of time, just back to the 50s, 1950, to now, and how fucked up this world is because of the progress that we've made, and because we're mining shit like crazy, because we want. I think one of the things that millennials and my generation agree on is that we might not need so much shit in our lives. Because the more shit you got in your life, the more shit had to be brought out of this earth for you to have it. Whether it's a stupid table that you have at home, your computer, or the clothes on your back. That's how it happens. It gets taken from earth. Nothing disappears. It just gets transformed. Look at anything that came from somewhere on this earth. The walls that are around you, that came from some mind. Shit, the dirt that's in front of your house where the lawn is put on, that dirt came from somewhere. I guarantee it didn't come from where your house was built. Down to that. So everything on this earth is mined, explored, supposedly for our benefit so we can survive. What's happening is being mined and explored by people who don't understand what the hell's going on, and little by little it's getting destructed. And the only people that I can see in the near future that might have a chance to save it is, or are, the late baby boomers, all the way through, and specifically the millennials, because you guys are the up-and-comers. You guys know what's going on. You guys are smart enough to know. You guys have parents that are about my age that explain to you what the world was like when they were kids, and you're not seeing it. And you're not seeing it for your kids. That I know for a fact. Unless you're blind and deaf and you don't understand what they're saying on TV and all the other feeds that you guys are in, then I don't know what else to say. Just a point of concern on my part, that if we don't really move on it, because it will take a generation, maybe two, it's going to be too late. And once it gets into the too late, it's too late. You can never go back. I smoked cigarettes for 45 years. And I never got to, it's too late. I quit before that. By that I mean every x-ray that I had on my chest, every time that I caught bronchitis, every time that I had an upper respiratory infection, every time I caught the flu, it wasn't cancer. And I was smart enough to quit after 45 years, mind you, before I got, oops, it's too late. You can't do nothing about this and you're going to be dead in 6 months. Well, I may live to be 90 now. Who knows? That's exactly what I'm talking about, but I'm talking about the big marble that we're all spinning on. That's everybody. Billions of people that depend on it. And little by little, it's going bye-bye. The way that I see things moving. Primarily because the leader of the world, which is America, and it's always been America, is always looked up to for stability, for intelligence. They ain't getting that anymore. And it looks like the whole world's a little bit lost. They don't know who to look at. They keep trying to bang on our door, but they keep getting their ass kicked because there's nobody there to answer it that has half a brain. So I just hope you guys don't believe the hype, don't believe the lies, don't believe the misdirections. You guys are smart enough to read through the lines, to wait out the bullshit, and to just let the misdirections roll off your back. And you guys are going to pluck the truth out. And that's what you need to go after, the truth. And it doesn't matter how many tweets are put out there or how many times Huckabee says that he meant this, he meant that. No, it was like this, it was like that. They try to spin it a different way. We know what's going on. We wade through all of that and we pluck out the truth. As they said, the truth shall set you free. And I hope to God it does. Been thinking about this for a couple, 3 weeks, kind of sitting back, waiting for the new year, hoping to come in with a really positive, let's get going, everything's going to be all right message for you folks. And I think I've kind of accomplished that. If you just listen to common sense, if you get out and vote, and you wade through the bullshit, and pluck out the truth, everything will fall into place. And pretty soon I might even run a contest as to see what the date is where things will fall into place. Meaning, when will Orange Julius be gone? And once that happens and his whole crony family goes away, which, by the way, is like a socialist or communist move. You know, first thing you do when you become president is you hire your family and you fire everybody around you. Exactly what happened. Well, we're a democracy, so I don't think we're going to put up with that shit too much longer. Especially when it's coming from people dumb as a brick that have no clue as to anything because they were never in politics. It's like having your gardener rebuild your motor. Ain't going to happen. Keep your guard up. Keep your chin up. Don't buy into all this crap. Wade through it. Pluck out the truth. And you won't have any anxiety about any of this stuff because it will get straightened out. There are too many smart people on this earth to realize that this thing has to continue this way. It's soon. If you guys hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, you'll see that my feeds support everything that I've been speaking of for every single one of my podcasts. This particular podcast was all off the top of my head, and it's all on feelings that I have for what's going on in the world and for people my age and younger, because I see little kids running around in my family that were just born, and I'm thinking, what the hell is this world going to be like 20 years from now? So this is my first podcast of 2018 of many. I'm trying to keep it on a weekly. Various topics, not all heavy and doldrum and political, and hopefully towards the positive and the funny, and everything is going in the right direction type of podcast. But reality is reality, and I'd like to put my word out there to see if somebody's listening, and maybe we can all make a change. Talk to you guys next week. This is Uncle Zed, and I'm out.